but on the basis of 4 people, all of whom had a genome that was fraudulently arrived at, this entire fake pandemic was created. There was never any SARS-2 virus. And I prove it in my book and so forth, and I hope you guys will read it. But let's continue on with Sam and Eric Topol, who fell for it, hook, line, and sinker. And there've only been, I've explained this to a lot of people, including very high-ranking people in the government, and they still won't, they tell me I still can't go that far, even though I prove it to them right in front of them. But let's continue on now and wrap this thing up. Y'all have been so great to listen this long. But Dr. Topol and Dr. Harris have really tried to pull a few over on you, trying to get you to take a vaccine that is full of SV40 promoters and enhancers, has contamination in the vials, and many, many, many other things. And the whole thing was based on a genome of 4 people when there's 8 billion people in the world. It's just mind-boggling. Let's continue.
The problem here is that, many things that were wrong yesterday are considered good information today, right? It's like they're very unlikely to get censorship right. What is outlier thinking and can be deemed dangerous or irresponsible can, in the fullness of time, prove to be the only correct view. So
I got off the beaten track there just a little bit, talking about how the whole thing was fraudulent. But the answer is very simple, Sam. You don't censor anybody. You let crazy doctors and stupid doctors and all kinds of people, even that aren't doctors, say what they want to say, and you let the public are not stupid, okay? The people that make up the public can be very smart sometimes. There's a lot of people out in the public that are a lot smarter than me. You let them decide on their own. Believe me, if it's helpful, they will do it. If the vaccine is clear to be clearly helping people, they will sign up for it and get it. You don't mandate it. You don't censor people who have a different opinion than you have, because frankly, you don't know what misinformation is. I wish you'd give me an honest answer on whether you knew before today what ribosomal frame shifting was. Did you know what it was? If you didn't, you not only don't know what misinformation is, you don't know what information is. And that's you. You're a PhD in neuroscience, and you don't know the ways that the vaccine affects the immune system, and on and on and on. I wonder if you knew that there was SV40 promoters and enhancers in there when you were injecting it into a 6-year-old girl, a 6-month-old baby girl, that might cause cancer in her later. Did you know that or not? I doubt you did. And I'm almost certain you didn't know the ribosomal frame shifting risks. I don't think Eric knows that. And you guys are pushing to get this thing injected into people for atypical pneumonia. Very, very upsetting to hear you push something for a disease that can be treated. We know how to treat it. That has 9 single-space pages of horrible, serious adverse events associated with it, listed in my book, over 1,300 of them, that you probably don't even know what 90% of them are. And you've pushed for this thing, and I'm proving everything I say today with the help of Dr. Cooper Vassar, Dr. Eldiri, and many others, And by the way, some people at Eric's Research Institute down there at Scripps, I'm talking about Christian Anderson, those guys wrote The Proximal Origins of SARS-CoV-2, which was an opinion piece put in Nature magazine, and that thing was a big fraud. Anderson even lied in Congress when he said that he did not have a research proposal on Fauci's desk when he wrote that pro-Fauci opinion piece with Gary and Lipkin and all the other guys. And so there was so much fraud that went on with this, and a lot of it was for money, and you're on the bandwagon with them, and it's very upsetting. I mean, I don't know what your deal is in life and what you want to make of yourself or your life, but you need to start talking to some different people. And I'm not pointing at Dr. Topol. I think Dr. Topol is, like we've all said, he's had a very active career and so forth. But you need some different opinions for sure if you're interested in getting to the bottom of this. Now, we're going to get to the end of this pretty soon if I can shut up and let you guys talk. But as far as censorship goes, eliminate it. That's the only way to do it. Let the public decide on their own. And don't politicize vaccines by mandating them. Absolutely should not mandate vaccines. Let people have control over their own body. Later, we're going to hear that Dr. Topol is in favor of vaccine passports. Those are horrible ideas. I'll explain that when we get to them.
It's just a difficult problem that they show no sign of being able to solve. And, Brett and everyone who's listening to him are incredibly animated by their clumsy efforts at censorship. Because they can always point to the instance where what they censored was, actually is now CDC policy, right? At one point CDC was against mask wearing, right? And if you what are you going to censor the people who said we should have been wearing masks a year ago? It was just obvious we should have been wearing masks.
No.
It's a hard problem to solve in terms of
So Sam is now saying it's obvious we should have been wearing masks. God. No, we should never have worn masks. I've proved that already. The Cochrane, what's it called? The Cochrane studies, whatever. It's the gold standard of looking into things like that. They agree with me. Masks don't significantly reduce transmission. And you still believe in masks. That's just mind-boggling. But that's where you're coming from on all this. You still believe in the vaccines. You still believe in masks. I'm assuming you still believe in lockdowns. Now, in part 3 of my grand opus, I'll call it, Sanction the COVID Murders, you are going to read about a really important thing regarding lockdowns that should be paradigm shifting. Because I'll break it on this channel. Regarding lockdowns, I have made a paradigm shifting discovery. Let me put it that way. And we'll talk about that hopefully in the future if you have me on. But you're right that a lot of these principles and facts end up being true that were considered or called a conspiracy theory just 6 months or a year earlier. And you need to be very careful who you censor. Now, when someone makes a comment that is ridiculous and it's not based in logic, believe me, it's not going to become a truth 6 months later. But you got to be real critical about the way you think about these things. So let's get on with it, and let's do away with censorship. Let's let the public decide, etc. I can't believe you would even think that letting Meta, Facebook, or one or the other, big social media companies decide what is true and what isn't, what is misinformation and what is not. Because I don't know if you know this or not, but we looked into who their fact checkers were, and a lot of them don't have any background in science. They were just high school graduates that don't know anything about science. And they're sitting there telling someone like you or me that what they're saying needs to be taken off the internet. I mean, you could be talking about neuroscience and they would take your statement down if they don't like it. And they're high school graduates. They don't know anything about neuroscience, but you're voting in favor of them taking things down, which makes no sense at all. So let's end that idiotic policy. Nobody can remove things from the internet, even if it says 2 + 2 = 5. I mean, imagine if someone well, anyway, just don't take anything off the internet. The public's not stupid enough to think 2 + 2 = 5. Let's put it that way. Let them decide on their own.
Response, and it's easy to see how people get freaked out by the authoritarian implications of having these virtually monopolistic companies close down conversation on specific topics. But it's
absolutely,
it's a nightmare what's happening in terms of how friction-free the spread of misinformation has become. So I don't know what your thoughts are on the front of what we should be doing. And also just to close the loop on Brett's concern here, it's not just that the big tech companies are doing it, but there really is a conspiracy that's happening out in the open where you have the government asking the big tech companies to do this.
Right.
It's not that no one ever conspires. Even in this case, they even admit that they're conspiring. But certainly viewed from one side, it seems counterproductive, as bad as...
Again, it's the government that's behind it a lot. And the government doesn't know anything either. I remember looking into a case where 3 people in the government were assigned to misinformation. 2 of them were lawyers, and one of them was a videographer, and they were on the committee. It was a 3-man committee that was deciding whether or not claims about SARS-CoV-2 and COVID were true or not. And I don't know if you agree with this, but it's pretty true, and that is, there's nobody less mathematical than doctors, except for one profession, and that's lawyers, I've noticed. You don't have any physics majors that are doctors, hardly. There's just a few, because it's too hard to make straight A's in physics if you want to be a doctor, to get into medical school. So I'm a real lone ship out there. There are a few others, but very, very few. There was a guy that went to MIT with me who was a math major in math and biology, and he is a brilliant guy, and he's mathematical, and he went to medical school. So that's what you're dealing with there. You're dealing with a bunch of English majors and biology majors and things like that, where it's easy to make straight A's so they can get into medical school from most colleges. Please do away with the censorship. Get some real people in there to screen if you want to try to make a determination as to whether or not something that someone is saying that's mathematical is correct or not. You got to get some smarter people in there as censors. Now, Facebook doesn't want to hire a bunch of smart guys because they cost too much money. But the government puts pressure on Facebook to take anything down that doesn't go with the government narrative, whether it makes sense or not. The judge out in, I think it was Missouri, admonished President Biden, his administration, and said it was the worst case of censorship he's ever come across when they were censoring people like me severely. They shadow banned me. They took my videos down all the way up to the ones I did with Dr. Bhattacharya, which really shocked me, etc. And Dr. Bhattacharya himself was censored. But compared to Dr. Bhattacharya, I was even more extreme in my views, as you've already heard. But I can prove them all. So that's a key element of my approach to all this. I don't say anything I can't prove. So let's do away with the censorship. Let's do away with the idiotic kids that are fact checkers at Facebook, etc. And let's advance the society here. It's ridiculous to do what we've been doing for the last 5 years. And COVID really brought it out crystal clear. And we need to stop it. And we need to stop mandating things like vaccines. Because there are some people who think they're dangerous, just like Dr. Topol thought Vioxx was dangerous. So let's move society forward. And if you disagree with me about what I've said tonight, have me on the show. You'll find it very interesting. Your viewers would love it for you and I to spar this thing out a little bit. If I survive my illness, I'd love to come on your show. I really would. I think you and I would have a grand old time, and the public, your viewers, would absolutely love it.
As the misinformation and disinformation problem has become.
Yeah, no, I am sympathetic to the point that everyone should be heard and things shouldn't be censored. That I think is clear. However, when it is come to a point where it leads to harm of people, then you have to say, well, is this crossing the line when you're harming a lot of people? Now, I think the conspiracy theories and theorists get tremendous amount of fuel when this happens. So, for example, if we go back to the lab leak origin versus the natural zoonotic origin of the virus, from zoonotic to human, there were a lot of people who initially in the science community advanced that this had to be a natural, not a leak at the Wuhan Virology Institute. And then as time went on, there were more and more irregularities. Still no definitive evidence either way. And we may never get that.
No, that's completely wrong, Eric. On February 20th of 2020, I proved that the virus could not have come from natural zoonotic spillover. And if you would have me on your channel, I'll explain it to you. It's very mathematical, but I can explain it to you, and you'll go, "Wow, is that right?" You'd not believe it maybe, but you would know that I'm onto something. And then the more I explain, the more you would come to believe it. It did not come from natural zoonotic spillover. I can prove it. Now, I also will tell you it did not come from the Wuhan Institute of Virology. Sorry, but it didn't. I can prove that too. Because Dr. Topol, I can prove that the whole thing was made up. And you say, oh, no way, it's ridiculous. We've done all these sequencing on it. Yeah, by using Fan Wu's by using Fan Wu's template, Fan Wu's sequence as the template. Of course you're going to get sequences that are very similar to Fan Wu. And of course, when you're off by so many nucleotides, you call it a variant. I mean, I can explain the whole thing to you. If you just have me on. I mean, you said that you switched from cardiology to being a genomics guy. You'll understand all of that I explained to you on that, and with you, not to you, but with you, and we discuss it. You need to look at this and open your mind, and you'll go, oh my God. Wow. More times than you can imagine. There's a lot of physics involved in it. And I'd love to explain it to you, even off the record. I live in California half the year. Just say, hey, come on down here and let's have lunch, if I can ever get my taste buds back. Let's have lunch and talk about this issue of where this virus came from. And I'll gladly fly down there at my own expense just to meet you and do this. Or you could have me on your show, whatever you want to do. But, there's a lot of things y'all don't know about this thing. And there's a lot I don't know. Maybe you can show me some stuff that you've come up with that would be edifying for me. Let's do it. Let's get to the bottom of this SARS-CoV-2 nonsense. I mean, do you know, for example, Dr. Topol, that this virus has never been isolated from a single person anywhere at any time? Not one virion. Now just think about that for a second. I've walked into a few university virology departments and walked right into the professor's lecture hall when he's gathering his papers and saying, can I talk to you for 10 minutes about the SARS-2 virus? And they usually say, sure. And I say, you're aware that this has not been isolated from any person at any time, aren't you? And they'll say yes, every one of them will. And I'll say, could you give me a good explanation why that is? And they'll say, oh, it's there's not enough virions, viral particles, to isolate one. There just aren't enough. And my next question is, well, then what's making us so sick? According to the government narrative, if there aren't enough viral virions, then why is everybody getting sick and dying from it? And they say, well, there's not enough virions, they're all intracellular. There are a lot of virions, but they're intracellular, so you can't isolate one. And I go, then wait a minute, how does it get transmitted from one person to another if it stays intracellular? That didn't make any sense either. And usually at that point, they got a meeting to go to. I mean, it gets ridiculous very fast. You can really paint these guys into a corner, because the issue of intracellularness and lack of virions causes a problem immediately. And the reason we know this thing hadn't been isolated from anyone, anywhere, at any time is we've done FOIA requests on it. We sent out 150 FOIA requests, or 169 I think it is up to now, I'm not sure. Christine Massey did this. And every single one of them, including the CDC now, she's sending them to really big 3-letter agencies. And anyone that got a grant, and anyone that's in a big university that's written papers on it. And every single one of them ultimately says, no, we have not isolated the virus herself, and we have not seen any scientific paper evidence of anyone who has isolated the virus yet. And of course, all the virologists have heard about that. And they have no way of disproving it. Now, Fauci at the beginning was telling everybody it stayed on stainless steel for 72 hours, which wasn't true, because you could get an electron micrograph gizmo down there and take a picture of it if it was, or some other surface. And you got Sanjay Gupta on CNN telling us we have to wipe our groceries down.